There is a reason that many writers are alcoholics and many great musicians are drug addicts. This is JARHUMOR speaking, and I want to talk to you about finding ideas. I am intoxicated right now. I don't really know to what level, because when you reach a certain level of intoxication, you fail to understand exactly how much you drank. But, I mean, it's like half a bottle of Taylor Marsala. It's 18% by volume. It's pretty bad. But I got food in my stomach. I shouldn't be too bad. Now, I don't endorse this as a condition, because I despise drunks, especially a drunk in public. I am in my home right now, and with the exception of my pontification into this microphone and the releasing of it onto the internet, my drunkenness would remain private. I despise a drunk. This all started when I was younger. My mother, who had self-esteem issues, would basically cruise halfway houses looking for new boyfriends, many of whom were drug addicts and alcoholics in their own right. I hated it. I hated them. And I hated her for exposing me to these role models. I say that with a sense of disgust and a little bit of vomit almost coming out of my mouth. The one in particular, the third one that I can remember, actually attempted to take his own life in our home. And I remember helping my mother clean up the blood. So when I say I have when I have an issue with drunks, I have an issue with drunks. But when it comes to the idea of a creative person who is finding ideas, let me let in the light. That's me turning on a lamp, so to speak. Not so to speak, I actually just turned on a light. What the hell did I say so to speak for? David Lynch, in his book, Catching the Big Fish, talks about diving deeper into the unconscious mind for ideas. This is something I very much am starting to understand about my own creativity. The best things I have ever created creatively have come from my subconscious mind. I can barely take credit for the funniest crap I have come up with, for the most artistic, interesting things I have ever done. I can barely take credit for it consciously. They came from the subconscious mind. I have had a set of limitations placed on me when it comes to my own work. You see, I'm a very retro person. I'm an old school person, and I live in this modern age. I really don't like it. I don't like this age. I don't like cell phones. I don't like the internet. I don't go on to popular social media sites and mindlessly scroll through videos. I'm not judging. Maybe you found my entertainment through the scrolling. For me to judge it and to call it mindless and zombie-like behavior is my own sort of just anger towards the overall aesthetic and the overall perception I have of these young people who seem to have absolutely no attention span whatsoever. But thankfully, you're listening to something that has a little bit of a longer format, right? But I do apologize for my intoxicated state. I apologize for my intoxicated state, but it is necessary in order for me to talk about this subject matter. The subject matter is finding ideas. Where ideas occur, there's a saying that the thing that you're seeking is in the cave that you're afraid to enter. The real ideas that I've ever come up with that really work have come from my subconscious mind. Now we can talk about that. Let's talk about where is that? Because, as I said, I despise alcohol. And I've never been much of a drug user during my, let's say, the past 10 to 15 years. When I was a young man, I smoked weed and I did LSD, and I had fantastic insights and experiences with that. The weed in particular wasn't necessarily anything, but it provided that catharsis in the same way that alcohol does, and that it's an altered state of perception. You get kind of outside of yourself for just long enough to perceive something else. Recently, in the past year, I started taking psilocybin. This has had a similar effect. But I realized that the psilocybin doesn't actually make me creative. The only thing it does is it makes me less judgmental of the stupid ideas that I have. I have an idea. Normally, without the psilocybin, I'd say, that's stupid. And then with the psilocybin, I say, put it on the internet, see what happens. And then I put it on the internet, and people like it. And I'm like, I'll be damned. Now, the psilocybin, by the way, is magic mushrooms. The mushrooms, they're not responsible for the idea, though. The idea came from somewhere else. It came from the subconscious mind. Now, I have always said that you can get to this place without drugs and alcohol. You can do it through meditation, going back to David Lynch. David Lynch, who does transcendental meditation, which in my opinion is just mantra meditation. I don't want to go off on a tangent about TM as an organization. It's whatever, everyone's got their own hustle. Okay. I just wish they made it more accessible. I think Russell Simmons saw that as well as a student of TM and said, you know what, I'm going to write a book called Success Through Stillness. I'm basically going to teach a very watered down sort of version of TM in my book, but just sell the book for a reasonable price, as opposed to the price tag that goes along with, once again, the TM organization. Once again, I don't want to get off on a rant about that. But the idea of transcendental meditation, or let's just call it mantra meditation for legality's sake, mantra meditation is very simple. You sit comfortably somewhere, you close your eyes, and you repeat a mantra over and over again. Russell Simmons uses phrases like Ram or Om or things like that. The cliche, of course, is Om, Om. And the reason for this, as David Lynch puts it, it's a thought vibration sound. That's how David Lynch would put it. It is a thought, vibration, and a sound. Repeating this thought, vibration, sound over and over again for like 20 minutes, and nothing happens. That's the worst thing about meditation, is it feels like you're wasting your time. It's the hardest thing to do. Imagine you're just a person. You're so used to either I'm watching the television, or I'm having a conversation with someone, I'm listening to some a-hole on the internet spew into a microphone, I'm listening to his stupid voice while he's obviously intoxicated, and what the hell does he know? Your mind is usually filled with some type of chatter. To sit and listen to nothing for an extended period of time requires more from you than you think. The ability to have the patience to sit and wait for all of a sudden this mindless chatter inside your head to just stop. That takes effort. And it's effort, but it's effortless effort. And I am a huge opponent. What the hell's the word I'm looking for? I like it. I like meditation. I like it. 2 thumbs up. I like meditation. And I feel, having done things like psilocybin, LSD, marijuana, and alcohol, meditation is still probably one of the best ways to get to what I'm talking about as far as mindlessness, but at the same time, not nearly as fun as alcohol, except alcohol, of course, has the dangers of substance abuse. I am very concerned with myself. For years, I never drank, because at the beginning of this, I said, I have a history with drunks. I have a history with drunk people, and even right now, as an adult. So I'm an artist, right? I'm a cartoonist by trade. The robots took my job. If you listen to any of these sort of talks, you know my tragic story of how the robots now do all the cartooning for human beings, and I have to work at a grocery store. So I work at a grocery store now. And there's a guy that comes into my grocery store, a very successful man. He has a lot of money. He, in his life, worked for companies building circuit boards. He was a designer of circuit boards. A brilliant man who has been reduced to that of a beach bum alcoholic. He's nothing more than a drunk who has $1 million in the bank. That's all he is. He's actually kind of a sad, tragic character. I admire him. I've talked to him for a few years now. But he is a tragic character. He's a man who wakes up every day and obliterates himself with alcohol. And the reason he does this is because he's running from something. He's running from his life. He's trying to fix things. His wife is gone. Not only did she divorce him, but now she's in the hospital and she has cancer. And his own children won't let him see her because of the man he's become. He's taken in some mentally ill woman who does nothing but physically and verbally abuse him in the attempt to try to fix her when he should be fixing himself. This man's alcoholism, his repeated destruction that destroys him, it has nothing to do with creativity. It has everything to do with running from who he actually is. When I come home from work and I crack open the Taylor Marsala 18% by volume and I drink half the bottle, I have a purpose in doing so. I don't get behind the wheel of my car and go out to the grocery store and talk to any asshole that'll listen to my sad story. I don't wake up in the morning and pour myself a mimosa. When I'm home, I'm working. This is work. When you're finding ideas, when you're doing this, you're doing it with a purpose. Let's party, bro. Let's get wrecked. Let's get wasted. I don't do that. I drink alone, and it's not sad. It's work. And it shouldn't be, though. Because once again, I don't endorse this. I wholeheartedly don't endorse this. I'm cheating right now. But what I have discovered, and I've had this revelation time and time again, but the conscious mind continues to wipe out this revelation, which is why it is needed as a necessity to record this as a concept, is that the true revelations come when the conscious mind is out of the way. Revelations 21:7, my favorite quote from the King James Version of the Bible, "He that overcometh shall inherit all things." That's in Revelations. Have you ever tried to read Revelations? Do you know how much crazy crap is in Revelations? And they opened up the seal, and behold, there was a guy on a horse, and he was mad. There was another guy, he had a scale, and he was like, for a penny of barley and all that. I mean, there's a lot going on. There's death, and there's plagues, and there's there's demons and there's a bottomless pit. The devil's down there, but this other guy's got a key and he can open the bottomless pit depending on what version of the Bible. I was okay. So I'm sitting there. I got two versions of the Bible open. I've got the King James version, and then I have the Light of the World edition, which is the Catholic Bible, which I don't like. I'm sorry, Catholics, but your version of the Bible is so weird. But I'm trying to distinguish the difference between the Light of the World, and I know this is kind of boring, and I promise I won't go on and on about this. But I am an ordained minister by the Universal Life Church. I may have mentioned this. It's the same people that ordained Lady Gaga and Conan O'Brien. So I have credentials for my religion. But I actually do study religion, and because I'm trying to find something. I'm trying to find where all of this comes from. Why religion? And I'm also trying to find why my own creativity. Because here's something interesting to tie it back to the whole preacher thing. I recently did a video. It was a short video that I put up on the social medias where I'm my preacher character. Now, I am an actual ordained minister, but I put on the little white, collar thing. I bought that at a thrift store. And I stand in front of the camera and I'm pontificating into the camera, right? And I'm giving this fantastic performance. And I think I was a little drunk that night when I actually recorded that. And once again, I don't endorse this. I'm just saying there seems to be a pattern here where I'm trying to cut through the bullshit of my own conscious mind, and I'm trying to get somewhere better. I'm trying to get somewhere, and I feel like meditation's the real way to get this. And I think I will look back in this and go, oh, James, come on, don't drink your way to this. Meditate your way to this. You can do better than this. But here I find myself on a Saturday night after work. And I've been drinking, and I have a microphone, and I have the ability to record myself thinking these thoughts and then put them on the internet. So let's talk about this video. I'm this preacher character. I'm pontificating, and I'm talking about, how in when the chaos seems insurmountable and a light is needed to pierce through the darkness, I reach for one book. That's the setup to the joke. One book, and I'm dressed like a preacher, right? And then I hold up a copy of Dr. Seuss's The Cat in the Hat. And I say, The Cat in the Hat by Dr. Seuss. Now, all of that, up until that point, is scripted. It's something that I came up with. What is not scripted, and this is where you want to pay attention, I then open the book and I start reading from the book. I just picked a random page from the book, and it happened to be where the goldfish is talking about how, no, this cat should not be in the, and I start reading it like a preacher. And I said, and the goldfish said, no, you cannot come in, Cat in the Hat. And I don't remember the exact quote from the Dr. Seuss book. But then I start just yelling into the camera, you got to tell the devil that you do not want the devil into your life. All of that was improvised. And it's so good. Oh, I look back at that and I'm like, oh, that's so good. It's such a good performance. Not to, suck my own artistic penis here, but I do appreciate myself as an actor. I've been an actor since I was a teenager. I'm a lifetime member of the International Thespian Society. I'm a card-carrying member of the International Thespian Society. Act well your part. There all the honor lies. Just in case you think I'm some poser, I know the motto of the thespian motto. I like being a performer. And I'm like, damn, this is so good. Where the hell did that come from? And that came from my subconscious mind. It was an improv. It was something that just came out of me. And I realized that with the type of entertainment that I'm going to be producing from here on out, less and less of it is probably going to be scripted. The entertainment, the infotainment that you're listening to right now is absolutely 100% not scripted. I had no clue. I was going to pick this recorder up and record this tonight. That's very important. That's a distinct thing. Most of the insane ramblings. If you listen to this podcast, and I'll put that word in quotes, as I do not respect that term, as I do not understand it. What does it mean exactly? I've made up my own mythology of what a podcast is. It's a broadcast that's personal. That's the conjunction. What is that word when you squish two words together? I don't know what it's called. Leave it in the comments, and don't forget to smash that like button. But it's a personal broadcast. That's what I feel a podcast actually is. But the word podcast, I feel, has such negative implications. It's usually just a couple of jackasses standing around talking about things that don't actually matter. Or it's one person talking about something so niche. I'm sorry, there's a lot of cars going by. Listen to that car. That is insane. I apologize. I actually wanted the car sound in this recording because I found that guy's car sound so unworldly. It was almost like a UFO. It had this type of quality to it that I actually really enjoyed. Whereas I've spent much of my time trying to record entertainment where I'm like, damn, a car just passed by. Let me take that again. In this case, I'm actually almost pointing the microphone out my kitchen window in an attempt to get that on recording. A podcast, I don't really understand what it is. I listen to podcasts. That's the crazy thing. I listen to podcasts and I get the idea of what they are. But I feel many times it feels so niche, and I don't know how to explain it. But there are a couple of words in my life that I have run away from. These are the caves that I'm afraid to enter. Right? I had mentioned that. There are these caves that I'm afraid to enter. Two of the caves I'm afraid to enter is that of podcaster, and the other dirty word that I've always hated my entire life is that of artist. Oh God, do I hate the word artist. How pretentious of a word. I'm an artist. I hate that word. I hate that word so much that I repel from that. I've called myself so many things. I was a comedian. I was a writer. And even a writer kind of sounds pretentious. Like it has those connotations similar to artists, but not quite as bad as artists, and not nearly as bad as podcaster. Podcaster just sounds gross to me. So I've run from these things, right? I've called myself a comedian. I've called myself a cartoonist. I don't even like calling myself an actor. I don't know why I'm hung up on these words that I don't want to call myself. But I don't want to call myself these things. I don't take myself very seriously. When I chose my artistic name, JARHUMOR, I chose the word humor for a very particular reason. Humor is not comedy. Comedy seems very lowbrow, too lowbrow. Comedy is getting kicked in the nuts. Humor is a literary term. Humor sounds a little more dignified. And there's this line from The Simpsons. It's delivered by Krusty the Clown. He says that the pie gag only works if the sap's got dignity. That means if the person that's getting the pie in the face, if they're a schmuck, if they have no dignity, it's not funny. So that's when he throws the pie at Sideshow Bob, because Sideshow Bob, voiced by David Hyde Pierce, or is it Kelsey Grammer? Which one is it? No, it's Kelsey Grammer, right? It's Kelsey Grammer, and then there's Sideshow Cecil, voiced by David Hyde Pierce, which is the Frasier reference. Okay. It's Kelsey Grammer doing the voice of Sideshow Mel, and Sideshow Mel has dignity. That dignity, when the pie is thrown in the face of that man, that's where the humor lies. That's what I understood. I understood that as a concept. Now, as a concept, there's this other thing called punching down. The reason you don't ever punch down is that you don't ever make fun of someone that's beneath you. It's not funny. You want to make fun of someone above you. You want to make fun of governments and politicians and celebrities. They're part of the archon. The archon means arch, which means over. Con means conventional. They're over conventional people. You want to make fun of those people. Those are the people you want to make fun of. Right? So I understood that. So I chose the word humor. The word jar is just my initials. My name is James A. Robertson. It's not a secret. It's my book, Awful Movies from Earth. It's published by that. Some of the stuff that I did earlier in my life. It's that. But if you look that up, James A. Robertson, you're mostly going to find pictures of tombstones and black guys. Like, I have a very black-sounding name. But that's all you're going to find. Or you might find James W. Robertson, who made like one horror film like in the 70s or 80s. Like, you're not going to find me. You're not going to find my art. So I had to create a word, JARHUMOR, all one word, all capital letters. That's who I am. You look up that word, you see all of the cartoon crap that I've created throughout the years, including I'm not saying it's Sharknado, but it's Shark Tornado for legal reasons. One of my best pieces of art was years ago. I created a series of horror Valentines that were very IP infringing, allegedly IP infringing, that had sharks and tornadoes and hockey mask killers and little critters and clowns that murdered people from outer space, and so on and so forth. I had these characters, and I think it was in the last year, this artist who I know through social media, very talented young woman in her own right, sent me a message saying that she had tattooed herself with my artwork. And I was a little taken back by this, flattered and also mortified at the idea that something I had created as a shameless cash grab, this horror Valentine, has now ended up on the arm of this young woman permanently. Where did this idea come from? From my subconscious mind. I can't take credit for anything that I've ever created. It's always come from the subconscious mind. So today, while I was at work, I was talking to this young man. He's probably 17 years old. 16, 17 years old. I asked him, because recently he had asked me advice about talking to young women. Or just talking to women in general. For him, he's talking to young women. He's talking to age-appropriate women for him. He didn't say to me like, Hey James, how do you hit on young girls? Oh, well, let me tell you, young man, this is how I hit on young girls. How do you talk to women? And I gave him my advice, which I won't really go into because I don't want to be judged on it. But more or less my overall statement is they're just people. You just talk to them like they're people. You don't act like you have any type of agenda or anything like that, which you do because you want to date them and you want to hug and kiss them and things like that, but you just act like you don't. You just talk to them like they're people. You just have fun and joke with them, kind of like they're your buddy, but you also compliment them, and lots of compliments. So I asked him. I said, "How did it go with the young woman? Did you end up talking to her?" And he said, "Yeah, she saw my tattoo, and we started talking about my tattoo." And I said, "I heard from someone you got a tattoo, and I can't believe this. Like I said, 16, 17-year-old kid has a tattoo." I said, "I haven't seen it. Why don't you show me your tattoo?" He rolls up the sleeve of the little sweater he's wearing. It's more than what I expected. I expected a little thing. You know what I mean? A little thing. A little whatever on his shoulder or something like that. It is his entire arm is covered with things that represent things for him. And then he tells me the story about how his mother went with him to the tattoo parlor. Because I asked him, I said, "What did your mother," because I work with his mother. I said, "What did your mother think of this?" And he said to me, he goes, "Oh, she was there. And she was filming me the whole time. She was waiting till I started. She wanted me to start crying so she could post it on social media." I thought that was so great. But I think the tattoo is horribly garish. Like, I'm someone, I have no tattoos. Mostly my beliefs as a hermeticist. It's kind of like Judaism. You know how Jews don't get tattooed? I don't get tattooed because I would never put a symbol on my body. Symbols in my religious beliefs have great power, and when you mark yourself with something, you take on the power of that symbol, much like words and symbols have great meaning. So, but I digress. Let's wrap up this idea. Where do ideas come from? Have you been paying attention? Let's take a little quiz at the end of this talk to find out where exactly ideas come from as we hit the 30-minute mark. Ideas come from somewhere else. They come from the subconscious mind. You really should not be taking credit for your own ideas because your ideas are coming from somewhere else. That's why people have ideas when they're in the shower. That's why people have ideas when they're taking a crap. This is why people have ideas when they least expect that they're going to have an idea, when they're intoxicated or on drugs. This is why drugs are so heavily associated with creativity. And I've always resented that because I've never been someone who has done drugs. But here I find myself, intoxicated and yelling into a microphone. So I probably don't know what I'm talking about. Also, this young lady seemed to like his tattoo. I don't get it, but young people. What are you going to do? Young people. It's the cave I'm afraid to enter. Right? I never got a tattoo. When I was a stand-up comedian, girls used to ask me all the time if I had tattoos, and I always disappointed them by saying no. I don't have any tattoos. They thought maybe that just underneath that dingy black suit that I bought from a thrift store, that somehow there was some interesting mystery, some art. Nope. Pasty hairiness. That's all there is. Sorry, ladies. But the cave I'm afraid to enter, that of being an artist, a podcaster, that my own pretension somehow is going to obfuscate my humor, my comedy, my ability to connect to the common man. Also my use of words like obfuscate. I don't know what to tell you, folks. You know where ideas come from? They don't come from thinking about it. They come from thinking about it so damn much that you transcend thinking, that it's beyond thinking. It's beyond thinking. If you're sitting there racking your brain trying to come up with ideas, you're doing it wrong. Go play a video game. Go watch a TV show. William S. Burroughs, and I'll end on this. William S. Burroughs said, "You can't create in a vacuum." He said that there's this idea about a great American novelist who locks himself away in a cabin and says he's going to write the great American novel. And it never works because you have to get out into the world. He goes, maybe you're at the airport and you see this cheesy paperback novel and you read it on the plane and then all of a sudden, there it is. There it is in the book, the idea you were looking for. It's not plagiarism. Because anyone who has any sense of history, how's it go? Anyone who thinks they're original has no sense of history. Richard O'Brien, the creator of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, I heard him once say that, and I'm sure he's not the first to say it. If you understand my meaning by that. Anyone who has any sense of history, or anyone who thinks they're original, has no sense of history. There are ideas out there. There are ideas within you. And you have to dig deeper. I endorse transcendental not transcendental meditation. Strike that from the record. Mantra meditation. I support also altered states of consciousness, unfortunately. Just once again, please listen to my speech about handling your high for more insight on that. And I would have to say, without a doubt, that I have an understanding of where ideas come from. And the lousy thing about it, the absolutely lousy, crummy, it's awful, sort of thing about it is I have no control over where they come from. I just have to be ready. Keep a pen and a notepad with you at all times, because you have no idea when your brain's just going to fart something amazing out. but usually when you least expect it. But when you try and you try and you try, it just doesn't come. You're just going to have to relax. You're just going to have to let go. Take a shower, meditate, beat your meat, have a drink, relax, read a book, watch a movie. Where do ideas come from? They don't come from you. They come from somewhere else. I want to thank you so much for listening. You can find me anywhere on the social media at JARHUMOR or JARHUMOR.com. This is the artist, the humor artist, cartoonist, writer, actor, JARHUMOR, all one word, all capital letters, signing off.